retreats. Why are they important? Are they important? And why you should go on one. Today on Happy Hour. Welcome back to Happy Hour, our podcast for young adults here at the Cathedral of the Most Sacred Heart of Jesus. I'm Rick.
And I'm Janet.
Retreats.
Yay! I'm excited about this.
This is a good one.
Yeah, it is.
I have been, I don't know how many retreats you've ever been on.
Quite a bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think I've had quite a few.
I'm going to say, now I don't know an exact number, obviously.
Oh gosh, I feel like your number's a lot.
It's going to be a lot. I think if I were to average it out for all of my years, I definitely have had or been on or put on at least 4 retreats a year, probably on average.
Okay. So
do the math.
I'm not good at math. You know this.
I'm probably nearing about 200.
Wow.
Yeah. Is that crazy?
That's crazy.
That's
yes,
a lot.
That's a lot. Because you also put on
yes.
retreats and then you attend them. And so
I might be over 200, to be honest.
Have you counted this year's?
No. Not alone. I mean, you just keep adding them and adding them, you know?
Yep.
So I might know a thing or two about retreats. Maybe, possibly. I think I can speak on this intelligently a little bit. You've been on a few retreats, even this year.
Yeah, I have.
Right? When you think about it?
Yeah.
I mean, you've even gone away.
Yes.
So just you alone, you've probably, I'm going to guess 5 retreats this year, maybe?
Oh gosh, yeah. If I think about like from when I started Echo. From when I started Echo.
Might be more than 5 then.
No, I think it would, actually maybe so.
I know you've done we just did a retreat yesterday.
Yes, we did.
You've done the Alpha Youth Retreat twice.
Yes.
Right? One for confirmation and one for the school.
Yeah, one for the middle schoolers.
Yep. And then you've had your New York one. It's kind of a retreat, right?
Yeah, technically.
And something in Echo.
Yeah, we had our end of the summer retreat.
Oh, yes.
And then we had our winter retreat.
That's 6.
Yeah, and then if we count yesterday's, like helping and being there with the 5th graders.
I count any retreat that you're at as a retreat.
Okay.
Because even, a lot of times, even when you're putting them on, you're receiving.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right.
1000%.
And sometimes you're actually receiving more than you're giving on most of those, just to be honest.
Yeah.
So maybe let's define what a retreat is, I guess.
Let's unpack that.
Yeah, that would probably be good. I see a retreat as a time I do like the word retreat, but I also don't. I struggle with that word, to be honest. We would always for instance, our high school group, Antioch, I wouldn't call them Antioch retreats. I'd call them Antioch weekends, just because sometimes that connotation of retreat means you're running away, but you are running. You're removing yourself, really. So a retreat is a time for you to get away. There's no set time, but it is a designated time for you to get out of the norm and go into your relationship with the Lord. I mean, really, that's what a retreat is. So it could be a 3-hour retreat. You go into the woods and you're going to pray the Psalms.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a retreat, right? Now, I've been on retreats that last all weekend. I've been on retreats that last more than a week.
Really?
Yeah. So everyone has their benefits, and I think every one of them annoys me a little bit too.
What?
Yeah. I say that because it's really hard for me to unplug from everything else. And so there's this annoyance in me of wanting to get back to the norm rather than focus on what I'm doing. And I struggle with that. It's a mental battle every time I go into a retreat to do that, but it is a great battle, and I like entering it. Yeah. I like retreats, but sometimes I don't. It's just facts. I mean, again, I've done so many of them that it almost seems like all the preparation for putting one on, all the preparation it takes, and then it's over in the blink of an eye. I mean, we're talking about months of preparation to do something that lasts for a day or a few hours. And but the payoff, it's like going to the confession. I feel like it's all this build up. You're like, and then you go and you're out and you're like, this is amazing. Yeah. This is incredible. Why don't I do this more? Mm-hmm. We need more of this. And I think retreats are a lot like that, right?
Yeah.
Like yesterday, we helped out with a retreat. Tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah. So yesterday was a day well spent, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think all of us, the teachers that were involved, like our helpers and everything, I hope found it very, very fruitful. But yesterday we helped out here at the middle school, or here at the school. Our fifth graders are about to be confirmed, and we helped out with doing their confirmation retreat yesterday. So it was just a whole day in which they didn't have to be in class. Oof. And I didn't think they even knew that. They didn't even know that they weren't going to be in class all day.
It was a surprise.
Yeah, I think they thought like, oh, like we're just going to do some little retreat like activities or something. But little did they know that they were going to be with us the entire day, have small group discussions, be able to just like chat with their friends during their breaks and have snacks, really good snacks. They had a ton of tables of snacks. But also like get to hear from some of our coworkers, their testimonies, their insights and wisdom. But honestly, I think my favorite part of the entire day, and they also got to play games. Don't worry.
Of course.
And they got to sing praise and worship.
Oh, that's
so
good.
They had a great time. But my favorite part of the day, I think, was them receiving their rosaries that your mom made for them specifically for them, like by their favorite color, wrote their name, like all these things. Like, so it was so personalized for them. Yeah. And they were so excited. Their faces when they saw those boxes come out, they were just like, what? Like, I get one in my favorite color with my name on it. Like, how special is that? How many of them are going to be able to say that? Like, I had a rosary specifically made for me, like with my name on it, like just written all over it. Right.
Yeah.
So having that, and then we prayed for every single one of them. We made them come up in front of their entire like classmates and peers, and we sat them like they were allowed to just sit, and just everyone was like praying for that specific person for that moment. And I thought that was so special, so special. Like, how many of them are going to be able to say that? Like not that many people get to say that when they grow up.
It's true.
Like, I don't get to say that.
Yeah.
But they will.
Exactly.
They will get to say that. Like when they're in college, they're like, oh yeah, I remember in fifth grade, like we did this retreat and they like all prayed for me. Like all my classmates prayed for me. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's so special.
It's incredible. When you really think about it, I would echo the same thing. I think that was my favorite part of anything, is invoking the Holy Spirit. And then we all just pray for that person. And that's something so unique to retreats as well. Typically, normally people don't go around just let's just pray for you, and just start, really lay hands on you and pray for you or whatever. It usually happens at a retreat, which is a bonus of retreat time as well. It's a time to be poured into, whether you're putting it on or not. So for instance, we were putting it on yesterday, and yet when I left, I mean, I could feel it. I could feel the weight of the whole day, and we had to MC the whole thing and make sure that everything ran on time. And then we had talks ourselves. We had small groups that we had to lead, games that we had to lead, and other things. So you feel the weight of that, and yet through the tiredness and the drain that comes with that, there was fulfillment and filling. So while it was removing things out of us, it was also replenishing something even greater, which is what a retreat should do. It should remove what is unnecessary and then fill you with what is necessary. And I really love that idea of just pouring out, but also receiving at the same time.
Yeah,
I've always felt like when I put on retreats, and there have been a lot of retreats where I feel like I don't even know what I did for these guys, but I know I received a lot, and I'm sure people that go on them are, that was amazing. And they do, we hear their testimonies, but there's so many moments where I feel like, oh my gosh, I personally just needed this, even though I was working, quote unquote, I needed this. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I think there's also like, there's so many things that I think kind of go unspoken when you're like with retreats, and then Like you don't hear those testimonies until like years later, like yesterday. Like I just know, like obviously, like I know that God was so present in that room. Like, cause all those fifth graders like wanted to be there. Like it's like the best day ever for them. Right. But I know that someone, even if it's one person, totally had an encounter with Christ.
That's right.
Totally felt his presence, his warmth, like his goodness and his love. And we're probably like, wow, like this is legit. Like what I believe and what I do and like what I'm taught here at this school, like this is for real.
Yeah.
And there's going to be, they probably had moments like that yesterday in which they're like, wow, like I am so blessed to have such a community like this, like friends like this. We won't hear about that until years like down the line. But that's so special that we allow the space, right, for the Spirit to move and to move in their lives, in their hearts. And that's just so special.
I love that because that struck a chord with me when you said we might not know that for years. Just recently, two people from my past have reached out to me, and I mean very recently, in two very separate moments. Of one was 12 or 13 years ago, and the other one was like 15, 16 years ago.
Wow.
And they just both reached out to me. One ended up calling me. And we spoke, and I haven't spoken to him in a decade for sure. And he just he reached out, and we just talked about the retreats that we were doing and how it's formed him. He's actually he's a sheriff down in Florida, and one of his roles that he wanted to do was pouring into the youth in his community. So now he actually leads them, and he was just talking about how all the stuff that we would do on retreats, he retained and is now trying to give that back to the community through an official means too. It's incredible to see. And then another one from Florida reached out to me just recently, who was a veterinarian. And quite literally, the retreat saved his life in a very real, literal sense. So sometimes we don't know the impact that we have, and that's okay. It's nice to get those shots in the arm, but I don't think I need those anymore because I know what the Lord can do with it. I used to need those to I don't know, just to pour into me emotionally, I guess. I don't know, or to validate that what we're doing is working well. But I really don't need those things anymore. I love them when they happen. Don't need them. I just know that we're doing the work of the Lord. And when you get to that space of just doing what you're supposed to do, and then let the Lord take it, and then you don't have to even question it or worry about it anymore. If you're doing what the Lord wants you to do, that's it. Everything else is a bonus. You don't need anything else. You just need the Lord. And retreats really help me to focus on that. Now, we've spoken a bit about helping with retreats, but what about going on a retreat for yourself, right? Because that's a much different thing. You've kind of gone on a retreat for yourself.
Yeah.
So what's that like, and how does that differ from helping on a retreat?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I think you like hit it pretty well in terms of like when you're helping on a retreat, like it's just like it can surprise you, like, because then it fills you up sometimes, right? But then other times it's just like, wow, I feel the weight of like everything that just happened today, like emceeing and like leading this and hosting that, like it can feel like a lot. But when you go on a retreat, like I agree with you, like it is definitely like, I really do see it as kind of like St. Francis of Assisi, like going up into the Carcery, right? Like going up to like his cave, like way up there in the mountains in the forest, and just like looking out over Assisi and just knowing that like this is when I can take breath, right? Like I see a retreat as like this is when I can take a breath and like kind of not care about like being like with my friends or not really care about like, you know, like it's just such a moment and such a time for God to kind of remind me and pour into me and say like, hey, like stop for a second. Like, can you look at me? Like, can you think of me? Like, can you like return your gaze to me? Right. And it's not like as if, and sometimes it does happen, but like, it's not as if like I'm not praying every single day or like, you know, not reading scripture every single day or those type of things. But, you know, when God says, like, look at me, like he really wants me to look at him during that time, right? So returning my gaze to him, like when I've been on retreat and recently, right? Like I went to the New York Encounter, right? And I did that all on my own. And I actually met some of my friends there. I didn't even know they were going there, right? But that felt like to me more of like, I mean, it's literally explained as like a 3-day cultural event, right?
Oh, wow.
Encounter, right? So, you know, that to me felt like, oh, like I'm meeting a ton of new people. So that didn't really feel like much of a like retreat. I did learn a lot though. Learned a lot about, you know, theology and just like really great topics and conversations that need to be had. But honestly, I think one of the best retreats I've been on like this year, in my year here in Tennessee, but like also like my year in Echo, was our winter retreat that I had just back in January, right, at Notre Dame. And that retreat was so special to me because it was snowing and all of my classmates were just like, I don't know, we were just like kind of like little kids. Like it really felt like we were just little kids.
That's great.
On retreat. And we were given the opportunity to be able to receive the anointing of the sick, right? Because the whole entire theme of our retreat was being a wounded healer, right? How we have wounds and like what that means and how that really looks like and the theology to it all, right? And, you know, all of us working in the church, like we are also kind of meant to be healers, right? Like we come in like, and we don't know anything about like the diocese or anything like that. And we come in and we're kind of like a source of like fresh air for like so many people. So in that regard, it's like, we're healers to them. Like they get a new perspective, right? They have a new set of eyes to like look at things. And, you know, but we carry a lot of those wounds that we have like into where we go. So being able to receive the anointing of the sick, like to many, they're just like, oh my gosh, it's like last rites or whatever. But no.
You're going to be okay.
It's okay. You know, it was really beautiful that so many of my classmates I know like have very like deep wounds, right? Like a lot of us, and not just like my classmates, but like a lot of us in general, like struggle with like mental health, right? That is just like kind of unspoken. So being able to receive like the anointing of the sick was like a moment in which like I really felt like God was telling me like, hey, like I know you've been through a lot in life and it's going to be okay, because I know that you really trust me in this moment. And you're returning your gaze to me, right? You are taking breath and you're just being present with me.
Yeah.
Like in that moment when I was receiving that sacrament, I really just felt like I was so present, like face to face with God. Like it really felt like such a warm and tender moment. And I think retreats are like filled with that. They're filled with like these warm and like tender moments of like, even if it's like one thing or like a little whisper that God tells you, or like a very simple sign, you're just like, wow, that's so tender. Like, you know that about me, right? You like, cause God knows everything.
That's right.
Right. So I think for me, like that retreat was so special because it was such a tender moment of like being just wrapped in this embrace with God, like feeling so warm and so present with him. And yeah, I think retreats are like filled with those small, like little tender moments.
For me, going on a retreat for myself is the hardest part of it is not critiquing the retreat.
That's big.
It's really big for me because I've done so many of them, and because when you do some, the hope is that you want to get better every time at doing it. So you notice kind of even the small things after a while, and you try to fix all those small things, and those small things can become big things. So now when I go on a retreat that's for me, usually I really have to mentally allow myself to not critique, because I'll look at all the things and go, I would not do it that way, or you really should have had better food, or hospitality, this, that, all those things, right? And that detracts from my being present for sure. So the battle for me now is, and I would say I probably put on 10 times more retreats than I go on, easily. So it's that reinforcement of trying to get better and making sure that, you remove all the obstacles before they're obstacles for people that come on a retreat. And then when I go, it's like, didn't you guys think of me before you even did this retreat? Like, what did you spend your time doing before? That's where my head starts to go. And I really have to fight that to just be present and be poured into. But then when I do that, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. I don't need, I don't need the hospitality, and I don't need these other things, because I know what the most important thing is, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't need anything to build me up to get there. So now my anticipation is just encountering the Lord, whatever that looks like. However it's planned out in the eyes of other people, I just want to encounter the Lord. But it takes a bit for me to get there, which is good and bad. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is retreats are so vital for who we are as a person moving forward in life. I was just thinking about this yesterday, because we had gotten off this retreat that we helped at, and just seeing really an encounter with the Lord. And for some of those students, I think for the first time. And so then I'm driving home, and I'm just thinking about it and how great it is. And I'm driving in the left lane of the highway. I'm passing a couple people because they're going slow. I'm not speeding. They're passing. I'm passing. And somebody comes over from 2 lanes over, just right in front of me. I mean, I had to slam on my brakes. They just fly right in front of me, and I slam on my brakes, and then they are going just slow. So I move to the middle lane to pass them. And as I turn over to look, it's this woman, and she is just completely flipping me off.
Whoa.
And I'm like, wait, what? You just did that to me, and you're flipping me off? Like, what's going on? And in that moment, I could only think, she needs a retreat. Because I was like, I just got off this great retreat, and this happens. And I think that we can get stuck in who we are and what we value and what we see as important. And if we're not working on ourselves, right, then we, in a way, become God. If we're not working on ourselves and being reminded of who God is, then our opinion is the most important. Then we're always right. I don't need to be validated by anybody or anything. I'm my authority. And that's very dangerous. So I was just thinking about how vital it is for us as human beings to take time out to reevaluate where we are and where we're going. Not just to be happy about this present moment about where I am. We have this great quote in the middle room of the Young Adult Center that says, I would hope at the end of my life, I would have not a single bit of talent left with me or in me. And I could say I gave all that I had, right? Well, I love that, because I feel like every day I'm given this energy and this level of being able to pour more. But if I stay the same, if I'm not working on my relationship with the Lord, I'm just going to plateau. I'm just going to stay the same. Things will be good, but they won't be great. And I don't have time for good. I only have time for great. So it's this constant, but I can't get there if I'm not taking time for myself, if I'm not allowing the Lord to pour into me. I can't see where I'm going if I'm not allowing the Lord. We just spoke about this last night. We had a nice kind of core team meeting with the young adults, and just talking about, the things that are happening here are amazing, but we want to envision further than just 6 months of what it looks like. We want to envision years ahead, what that looks like. But to do that, we have to take time out and let the Lord pour into us and envision us and remind us of our purpose. And that happens on a retreat. So many great things. Everybody has their little thing. That's why a good retreat does multiple things. It has multiple ways to engage you. there's only, 11% of the people in the world learn by lecture-based teaching. 11%. That's it. Now, I think I've said that before on here. So if you've listened for a little while, you know that stat. But what that means is if all we're doing is just standing in front of people and telling them what to do, what not to do, lecturing, only 11% of the people are going to learn that way. And we're missing 89% of the people. So you need music.
Mm-hmm.
You need art, right? You need reading. You need silence. You need fun. You need food, right? It's about engaging all the senses because chances are they're going to connect with something, right? If you do it well. And that's why I love retreats that just have kind of at least sprinkle all of those pieces in, to kind of break it up a little bit too. I know that I personally can only sit for so long in silence. It drives me nuts, A little bit of silence goes a long way for Rick Grinstead, and a lot of silence makes me go crazy. So I need a little bit of shift in my retreats too. But I will also say that it is in the silence where I think the most profound things also happen.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer and silence. I think those two, for me personally, are where the biggest moments of my retreat experiences have paid off.
Mm.
And being prayed over. I mean, and not just praying for people, but being prayed over is, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with that.
I mean, can you remember the first time you got prayed over? Was it at a retreat? Do you know?
Oh, gosh. You want to know something? I think the first time I've ever been prayed over, probably... Oh, wait, no. I was about to lie. Thank God.
Ooh.
God struck. I was about to lie. The first time that I was ever prayed over was by my youth minister back when I was in high school.
Wow.
And we were just having like a team meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just telling him, like, I don't remember how old I was. I think I was like maybe 16, 17. And I was just telling him, like, oh, I'm so stressed. Like, life in high school is so hard. I have to start thinking about big things, like, And he's like, you need to be reminded that you are God's daughter, that you're so beloved. No matter what happens, what choices that you make, like, you have to remember that, like, he's the one guiding you, right? Like, his will over yours. And he just prayed over me. And that was, oh my gosh, y'all, I'm kind of old. That was, I think, I want to say probably if I was like 16,
Ooh.
Yeah.
So like 2016?
No, 2015.
2015. Oh, that's right. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was 2015. So almost a decade ago.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I came here that we really lived that out. Like, I started to live that out again.
Yeah.
Right? Like, being prayed over, but beginning to pray over others. This is the first time that I'm kind of experiencing that. And I think you're right. Like, on retreats, like, that prayer, that silence, like, being prayed over, like, those are some of the most, like, monumental moments on retreats, because that is when people are like, okay, everything that they have just told me, everything that we have just done, even the games, like, everything, like, kind of comes down to this moment.
Yeah.
This moment in silence, right? This moment in prayer, this moment of being prayed over and having God's Spirit, like Holy Spirit, pour out over me to remind me to keep walking and keep running the good race, right? To keep going on this path, to kind of look at things. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but when we were praying over all those fifth graders, like, some things like totally just like came out. It's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yep.
I don't even know that. Like, but they probably needed to hear it, right? 1000%.
Yeah.
They probably were like, oh, like, I get bored when I go to mass. And little did we know, we're like praying for that over them, right? And like, we don't even know that. We don't know.
Only the Spirit knows.
Only the Spirit knows.
Right?
All in the Spirit.
Like you said, I mean, there's the games and there's the music on retreats and all that stuff. And what really you're doing is you're allowing for openness for when that moment happens, for prayer or for silence or however the Lord's going to connect. You're building trust with people. When you're on a retreat and all those things are being offered, you're building a community. You can only have that happen by taking time. It takes time to build, and that's why typically on a good retreat, let's say it's a 3-day retreat, the height of it's probably at the end of the second day, where you've broken down some walls, some barriers, built some trust, and then pour into them. And that all helps to facilitate a moment that you can have with the Lord, where we can silence all the other things because we know we're in a trusted environment. And that's really the goal of a retreat, is to be able to break everything else down so you can have an encounter with the Lord. And that's why we do retreats. And that's why we think that you listening right now need a retreat. There's great retreats that are offered in a lot of places. St. Meinrad does phenomenal retreats. They offer retreats all year long. We have some pretty great retreats here at the cathedral, young adult retreats, moments. But we also would encourage you to maybe become a part of a retreat team. There's something, I always say, my favorite retreat was my second Antioch retreat. My first one was life-changing, though. It changed me. But my second one was my favorite because I got to work it. I got to help be a part of it. So it's one thing to receive, and then it's a whole other thing to give as well. So we would encourage you to both go on a retreat, but also look into being a part of a retreat team. It changes everything. Are you looking for a change in your life right now? A retreat is where you can find it, either by putting it on or by going to one yourself. So we very much encourage you to do that. And that is all of our time, Janet. I don't know. I just feel like if you're listening to this and you need to share it with somebody that needs to know that it's okay to go away for a little while to work on themselves. I think mental health right now is at an all-time high, and the best way to help your mental health is to encounter the Lord. And it's the greatest thing that you can do for that. So we would hope that you would encourage others in your life as well to go on retreat. That's all the time we have. We appreciate you listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Happy Hour.